Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today we are going to be talking about some amazing tabletop RPGs that are not Dungeons and Dragons. So let's get started. Recently, I had posted a DM roundtable that was a group of my peers and I talking about games other than Dungeons and Dragons. And unfortunately, this video file got corrupted. When I exported it from Adobe Premiere, it didn't take the whole video. It only took about 35-40% of it. What happened was I had deleted the raw footage. I do not have access to it anymore. So unfortunately, I can't republish that video correctly. So decided to do this video based on that. And before I get into a lot of RPGs that I think are really great for you guys, I want to talk about some of the ones that were mentioned. So one of them that Dicely DND had mentioned was Avatar Legends. If you're a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you're probably going to enjoy this RPG. I am not real familiar with it. I know it ran a successful Kickstarter, and I know Avatar is very popular. My daughter is a huge Avatar fan. So again, sounds like a really cool game, especially if you are into that specific anime. Another one he had mentioned was Coyote Crow. This one is Native American inspired, and there are books for this currently over on Amazon. I will post links to these all in the description below, by the way, so you can go check those out. But Coyote Crow sounded really interesting to me. This has novels written for it, and among other things. So I do plan on checking this out. I'm not real familiar with Coyote Crow, the franchise, but it is something that I definitely want to check out. So thank you, Dicely, for mentioning that. How to RPG brought up Star Wars Saga Edition. So that is a game that I would really be interested in checking out. I do have a Star Wars Fantasy Flight Games role-playing game that I really like. I like the dice mechanics of that. Saga Edition was worked on by Owen Casey Stevens, who is a well-respected game designer, and he had a huge hand in that game. So I'm sure it's great. Obviously, it's an older Star Wars game. They're not putting out new content for it or anything like that, but I'm sure it's a lot of fun. And so again, go check that out if you really like Star Wars. How to RPG also brought up Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is a great game. Obviously, if you like percentiles. Percentiles are really easy to use, especially for people who are new to tabletop RPGs. It's something that everybody pretty much understands how it works, as long as they read the dice properly. But yeah, I would definitely say that Call of Cthulhu is a great game, especially if you're going for a specific feel when it comes to horror or things like that. The percentile system works for a variety of different games and settings, and so I really like that. Games like Zweihander, Warhammer Fantasy, role-playing game. You know, the percentile dice, again, are very simple for new players to pick up and just jump into the games. So that sums up what they had said. Rook Zero also had mentioned Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now, some of those I might be talking about in my group of books here. We're going to be going over quite a few RPGs here. So giving you a little bit of my take on it and the mechanics, what I think you might like about them. So the first one I'm going to start with is Savage Worlds. Now, they have a variety of extra books for it. This is not the most updated. This was $10. This is the Deluxe Explorers Edition. These soft covers were $10. Now, they have a new one. I think it's called the Adventurers Edition. It comes in hardback. I think the hardback's about $40. And they also, again, like I said, sell a lot of companions that go with it. These are not very thick books. They're smaller than normal books. This one was $20. So if you want to like replace Dungeons and Dragons right now, you know, buy a combination of these two books. I believe they're reworking on all the companions with the updated rules for the Adventurers Edition. But if you're able to get your hands on the older one, you'll still have a very good time with that as well. They have sci-fi, supers, Savage Riffs, which is the main reason I got into this. But I had played in the Shinetar setting for a while. I had done supers a little bit beforehand, before ever playing Savage Riffs. So again, if you like that idea, go jump into that. The mechanics are pretty simple. you have a wild die and you have whatever your attribute die type is. So you start off at like a D4 in different attributes, and you can up them to like a D6 and a D8 and a D10. If you're trained, I believe you get the wild die as well. If you're not trained, I don't think you do. I might be wrong on that. It's been a long time since I played. It's been about 4 years since I've played Savage Worlds. But again, it's a very simple system, and the dice types go from D4 all the way up to a D12. As you level up your skills or put ranks in them, they go up to the next die type. So again, a very straightforward game. Increments of 4 are considered successes. So if you get a 4, that's 1 success. If you get an 8, that's 2 successes, so on and so forth. And the best part about that game is the exploding dice. So if you roll max on a die type, you get to roll it again and add it to that number, and you keep doing that. Exploding dice are fantastic. You have what's called bennies. Bennies allow you to do re-rolls, soak damage, things like that. They come in the form of a poker chip. Savage Worlds was originally created for Deadlands, which was a Wild West setting. So that's why you have poker chips involved in that. You use a deck of cards for initiative. If you get a joker, you get bonuses for your rolls and things. So again, a very interesting rule set. And I think if this sounds like something you're interested in, you should definitely check it out. It is a great multi-setting system. The next game I want to talk about is a setting and rule set that's very near and dear to my heart. There's a little bit of nostalgia here for me, and that is Palladium Fantasy. So I grew up on Palladium. Palladium Fantasy is a game that I actually did not try until I had already played Pathfinder First Edition. So we're talking probably 2013 was the first time I ever played Palladium Fantasy. Now, my Palladium love, though, goes back to the 90s with Heroes Unlimited and Riffs. But this game and this setting are super interesting to me. The system itself is a D20 for combat. It's an active defense system, which to me is the best part about Palladium. You can parry, dodge, you can do a variety of actions when it's not even your turn, when someone's attacking you or if you're falling or whatever. There's a variety of things you can do that I think make the system great. It uses percentiles for the skills. So again, percentiles, like I said earlier, very simple. And the way you level up, you just add the incremental percentage. So again, very, very simple. Love, love, love Palladium book system. I recommend if you're going to use Palladium book system, though, you try to run it a little bit rules light. Hand wave some rules for the rule of cool. Let your players do awesome stuff. Don't always be so bound by what the actual rule for it is. And I think you'll have a great time with this system. It's a very small world that's kind of divided among different factions and different places. And in these places, there's a whole slew of a specific theme, right? The Western Empire, to me, has a very feudal Japan style to me. The Northern Territories are barren and cold. Eastern territories, again, more of like a forested area, but more settled. You have the barren wastelands in the south, and just so many different cool things in here. I love the different races that are in this game. Having like Wolfen, who are like full-on wolf or coyote characters. Again, just very interesting setting itself. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good books for this. So again, check out Palladium Fantasy. They now offer it in hardcover. You can go pick that up over on the Palladium Books website. The next one I'm talking about is currently feeling the effects of the mass migration from 5e. Dungeons & Dragons obviously has driven people away, and a lot of people are trying this system. Now, Pathfinder 2nd Edition is not D&D 5e. If you are thinking of switching to Pathfinder 2nd Edition because it's the closest to D&D 5e, you're going to be grossly underwhelmed. And why I say that is because while 5e, I think, has a lot of loose interpretations or openings in the rules for you to like play with it how you want, Pathfinder 2nd Edition is more rigid. You have a rule for practically everything. In D&D 5e, for example, if you do an extra attack, you just do a regular extra attack, and it does not have a penalty or anything like that. You just continue to make your normal attack roll. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, though, you have attack penalties for your second and third attack. Now, there are ways that changes by your class. When you do your multi-attack, you're going to have a -5 on your second attack and a -10 on your third attack. If you're a ranger or a fighter, you're going to have lesser penalties. If there's certain feats you take, you might have lesser penalties. Certain spells that are cast on you to boost you might lessen those penalties. So these are things that, again, you're going to have to remember. Sometimes, there's a lot of different conditions in play. For example, if you're worrying about stealth, it's not just you're hidden or not. There's different tiers to the stealth results. You might be hidden and then nobody knows you're even in a room. You might be hidden, but they know you're in the room, but they can't see you, for example. So there's different levels of that, and they have conditions associated. The ancestries, heritages, backgrounds, and classes, I think, are really well done. The archetypes are fantastic. As you learn this system, you're going to love exploring more of the depth of the system with things like archetypes. And I think, again, this is going to open a whole new door within this. So when you first start playing, just play loose. Have some fun. If you forget a rule or whatever, it's okay. It's a good time. As you get more into it, explore with the heritages. Heritages are a subcategory of ancestry. So with heritages, you might be, your ancestry might be that you're a dwarf, but your heritage might be that you're a half elf, half dwarf, right? And so you get to pick from multiple different feats and stuff like that. Because of those, it opens doors to more stuff. I think this is a lot of fun. I actually really like what this does for the system. You can create almost any character concept. This game, because of their setting, also has a little bit of sci-fi to it. You could have like an android alien race, but if you want to stick with the more traditional fantasy stuff, you can still dabble a little bit with things called leshies, for example. Leshies are plant creatures. You can dabble with undead style creatures. You can explore all sorts of things. Animal style creatures, beastkin, I think is what they're called. So there's a lot of cool things in here. There's a fox race. There's a lot of anime influenced things. There are powder weapons, so like guns and stuff like that. There's robots. There's steampunk style things. So again, this game has pretty much anything you would want in it. And the coolest part is all of it is free at Archives of Nethys. So if you want to check it out before making a purchase, you can. I would recommend starting with the beginner box. It breaks you into the system very easily. And once you've got that, you can then go and purchase this. Now, I've seen people saying online, all you need is this book to play it, and I don't agree with that. If you're using online references, fine. But if you're talking about using books at your table and you only have this is not all you need. You have no monsters in here, no NPCs, nothing. So I do think you still need the 3 core books. This is a $60 book off the shelf. You obviously have the bestiary, and then you have the game mastery guide. So you're still talking about $150 to get into this if you want to have the books, and that's what you're basing it on. Again, great game. All their stuff is free online, so you can go check that out. I'm very interested to seeing what Demiplane does. They're right now in alpha testing, I believe, of their character builder, which is a lot like D&D Beyond. So I think that the idea is they're going to have a system like that. But in the meantime, if you want to use Path Builder, that is a good way to, again, help you create characters. Spent a lot of time on this one because I think this is the one that's getting the most attention right now. But there are a couple more fantasy RPGs I want to talk about before moving on to talking about other RPGs. The next one I want to talk about is Fantasy Age. This is one of the easiest RPGs to get into. If you are new to RPGs, it's perfect for you. If you have a lot of new players at your table, again, this is perfect. It's a 3d6 system with stunt die. One of the d6s is a different color, or at least so you know which die it is. And that one is your stunt points. If you roll doubles and succeed on a roll, you use those stunt points on a list of charts to do something extra cool. It might be more damage, might be an extra attack. In a social situation, it might be earning favor with an NPC. In exploration, it might be that you uncover a different clue. or position yourself in an advantageous position. So again, this is a fantastic tool set for that. There's no setting associated with this, but this is a great game. This does have a bestiary in it and some other things, and so you technically could play with just this. However, I do recommend picking up their bestiary and some of their other books because, again, they're cheaper and they have a lot of great information in them. A very thin book by Green Ronin. This is a $30 hardcover, so not a bad deal for a really great game. Now, this game uses the same system but has other things added into it. This is based on Dragon Age, the video games, which are some of my favorites. I love Origins. Dragon Age 2 wasn't my favorite, but Inquisition was great, and they're currently working on Dragon Age 4. So again, a 3d6 system, same deal. Spellcasting is dangerous even as a spellcaster. You have the chance of failing and something catastrophic happening to you, where basically you need to roll up a new character. So magic is dangerous in this setting. This is a thicker book. It's got all the monsters you need, all sorts of stuff. They sell a second book for this system that has a bunch of NPCs from the video games. Not all of the ones you would want, but it has a lot of them. So again, that is also worth picking up if you are a fan of Dragon Age and want to get into this. This book is beautiful. I absolutely love this book. Green Ronin did a stellar job. I do wish the binding was a little better. You can see that I got like a gap on the top here, and it's flat on the bottom. But I've also owned this for 6 years. And it's still holding together strong. A lot of great stuff in here. Beautiful book. You can play Grey Wardens. There's special rules for if you play a Grey Warden. It's still a 3-class system, just like Fantasy Age, where you have a warrior, a rogue, or an expert, and a spellcaster. But you can layer on a Grey Warden to that on top of it, separate mechanics for it. And there's also stuff about if you drink darkspawn blood, if the tainted blood, how it affects you and stuff. So all of that is in here. Great game, inspired by an even better video game. So again, worth checking out if you're a fan of Dragon Age. Next up, I want to get into my superhero RPGs. I love superheroes. I grew up on it. Superheroes is how I got into tabletop RPGs. So with that, I'm going to start with the very first one by Matt Forbeck, and that's Marvel Multiverse Roleplaying Game. This is a playtest. You can pick it up on Amazon. It's a very small book, but I believe it's only $10. Yeah, $10 over on Amazon. They got 2 different cover designs, so you can pick those up for your table. Not bad to playtest a Marvel hero role-playing game. I believe it's a D6 system, similar to the Fantasy Age system, 3d6. So again, worth checking out. And I am excited to eventually play this. I'm looking forward to the final edition of this game because I think it's going to be amazing. I'm a Marvel fan. I love Supers games. 3d6 is simple to get into. So what more could you want? Check it out. Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game. The next game I want to talk about is probably the most popular superhero role-playing game out there, and that is called Mutants Masterminds. This right here is the Game Master's Guide. It's based on the 3.5 rule set for D&D using the OGL. And again, Mutants Masterminds is easily the most popular superhero RPG out there. It is a system that, again, most people are familiar with if they played 3.5. You can create pretty much any type of superhero character you can think of. There's a ton of books out there in support for this game line. So if there's not something you can think of from the core book, there's something out there that you can find what you need in it to make your characters. So heavily recommend this. I do not own the core players books for this though. I've looked for the basic Heroes one and the deluxe Heroes one, and I can't find them anywhere. They're sold out everywhere, and I really want that deluxe one. So if you have the deluxe and you aren't using it and you are looking to get rid of it, please message me, hit me up in my DMs, comment below, all that good stuff. Find me on my Discord. I would love to take that off your hands. Next up, I have a couple lesser known games. The first one I'm talking about is from Strange Machine Games, and that's Super Age. They currently own the license for Robotech. They make some other games, but Super Age is a D10 dice pool system. Again, you can make pretty much any character you can think of. It's a very thin book, but you can go find it over on strangemachinegames.com. It looks like a very interesting game, And again, not a lot I can say about it because I haven't played it. I did try to play it with the game designer. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it the one day, so we had to call off the session, and we were not able to come to terms on playing it later on. So with that, it's a system I do like. It looks pretty interesting. I've read through the book, but I did not get a chance to play it, so it's hard for me to really comment on just how good it is. It seems like you can make any character you can think of. So again, worth checking out if you're interested. I plan on doing stuff with this if I can ever play it. So if I ever find someone who wants to play it and is familiar with it, we'll play it and I will review the system upon playing it. The next one I'm talking about that is more obscure is Julian Kay's Mutants in the Now. Now, I can tell there's an old school influence in this. It seems like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a heavy influence. Some of the older RPGs definitely led to this system. A lot of tables in it, which are great. You can build out your characters' animal types into humanoids and stuff with goo points. So again, a very, very interesting system. It does remind me a lot of Palladium books. I will say that. This is the revised edition. They did a Kickstarter, I believe. So yeah, it's got over 130 species of animals, all sorts of interesting stuff. But definitely has a influence by the old TMNT games and stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. Next up is Heroes Unlimited. This system, not this version, the blue cover version is the actual one that got me into it. But this system is what got me into tabletop RPGs. This is the very first book I ever bought, I think. No, I bought the blue one, and this was given to me by the Easter Bunny in 1997. But yeah, so this, maybe it was 1998. I still have the old sticker. I got it at somebody got it at Ryder's Hobby for $25. So yeah, they have this in hardcover now over on the Palladium Books store, so you can go check it out. Again, lots of cool stuff can be done with this. I used to make so many characters. I had folders full of different characters. I used to try and see how strong can I make a character and how fast. And I used to try and push it to the limit with what I could build with the most extreme type of characters. And again, still very fond to me. It's a game I play. I still play. So played it with my wife, played it with my daughter, I think. So again, it's a game I'll continue to play probably for the rest of my life, just because I have such fond memories. And yeah, if that's a game you ever want to play, I would be willing to play it for people. So, feel free to reach out. Right now, I'm not starting any new campaigns, but if you join my Discord and I come up on a time where I'm looking for new players, there you go. There's your opportunity. Next up, in the same vein, is Riffs, also by Palladium Books. This is a post-apocalyptic game on Earth where great cataclysms destroyed the planet. There's now these ley lines that surge magical energy that some creatures and different type of people in the world can manipulate to make them more powerful and stuff. Lots of cool stuff in here. It is probably one of the best futuristic settings out there. There's some books that I'm not that into. Some of the setting just doesn't jive with me. But there are so many amazing books out there for this that a lot of people love. So it was very popular back in the day, and it's still a great system. They've obviously adapted it to Savage Worlds, so Savage Riffs is a good one. Sean Robertson works on that. That's like his baby right there. Kevin Simbita, obviously, this is his baby. So again, definitely worth taking a look at. Very popular game. The next game is something I really, really, really want to play. Again, most of these games I want to play, but Worldwide Wrestling. I am a massive pro wrestling fan, and this game simulates the business really well, from having to work with the booker or promoter, which would basically be your game master. They set up the matches, determine who wins, and then you go out and play it and do what you got to do, and then, provide an entertaining show for the fans. The idea is you want to get heat. If you ever lose all your heat, you can run the risk of getting fired and replaced by new wrestlers. There's interesting storylines you tell and stuff like that. Championship titles, So again, this is a really, really interesting game. If you love pro wrestling and are really into the ins and outs of how it works, like a little bit behind the scenes and stuff, I think you might enjoy this. You can tell a lot of fun stories, especially with a group of friends that all like pro wrestling. The next game is a very popular IP, and that is Star Wars: Edge of the Empire. This one was by Fantasy Flight Games. Really, really, really good system. I recommend picking up the beginner boxes, so you have the dice. They come with maps, they come with tokens, so you could have everything you need to play it with the starter boxes. They've got a variety of them. I have a few of them over here. You see I got Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, Force and Destiny, and The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens is arguably the worst one. I like them all, though, and I love that they all have the dice, so I didn't have to go out and spend extra money just to buy the same set of dice, because, again, they're in the beginner boxes. It was out of print last I checked, so they're not releasing new stuff. Rumor has it they might in the future, but we'll see. It's been a while since they've put anything new out, as far as I know. But there are a ton of books that go along with these. Again, each one of these main books represents a different era of Star Wars. So this book has no Jedi. In fact, you don't get any Jedi until you get to the core book for Force and Destiny. And, a lot of people I've talked to actually don't like playing with Jedi anyway. They like doing just the red and the white book, focusing more on your lower tier style play. And if there's a Jedi or a Sith, they're super powerful, and they're typically the guys that you're either NPCs with you or villains that you're fighting against. But for the most part, a lot of people I know avoid those. So if you want to play like a Rogue One style game, then definitely check out these other books. And I think you'll enjoy it. The system has narrative dice. You can succeed but have like a negative thing happen. So like, the example I use all the time is the gridlock. You opened the garage door so you can fly your ship out, and unfortunately the hatch broke and you can't close the garage door, so now the other ships can chase you as well, and don't have to deal with opening it. Or maybe opening something seems to be the common thing, but that's because it came up in our game. But maybe you shoot a bad guy, and in the process, you also blow something out behind him, like the computer panel. So the reason you came in here to deactivate the torpedo that's about to hit your friends is no longer deactivated, and therefore your friends still get hit by the torpedo or run the risk of getting hit because you can't stop it. So something like that could happen on a successful roll because you had a couple negative things pertaining to it. So again, a very cool narrative game. The last game I want to talk about is Call of Cthulhu. Again, I talked about it earlier because How to RPG had mentioned it in our stream. And Call of Cthulhu is a very, very simple game, percentile based. You get some insanity and stuff like that. I recommend picking up the starter set to get started, or you can just pick up the couple core books and have a great time with it. So anyways, those are the games I wanted to suggest you check out if you're looking to try something new. Obviously, most of those are not fantasy related. In the beginning, we talked about the fantasy games that I think you would enjoy for a variety of reasons. But a lot of these other ones are not fantasy. Would love to know if you've played any of these games and what you thought of them. Please comment below if you own any of these and if you've played them. If you're interested in playing any of these and you're looking for players, feel free to join my Discord where you can look for players. We have a separate channel for that. And heck, maybe I will be interested in playing sometime with you. Maybe in the future I'll run some of these on the channel. If you want to see that, let me know. This was Master the Game. I am Juice. Game on.